item number 7. Anything else, Mr. Halsether?
That's it.
All right, we're moving through item number 1, which is a transit system, couple of items on the transit system. The first one is the child restraint and fares. Mr. Halsether, anything you want to add before we ask questions?
Yeah, at the last meeting, there was a question about that, about the free child policy and the change of that, and the council didn't seem to have any objections to that. There was a question about infants and whether or not infants could be held by a parent and thus not be charged. The state law does require that passengers on a transit bus be buckled in, and so there's not a provision for parents to be holding infants. So that's state law. So with that, we would recommend the change in the policy as originally proposed. I know we had some comparison to airlines and the fact that airlines do allow parents to hold infants on a flight, and there's I think there's a little bit of difference there between a transit bus. A transit bus coming to a sudden stop could be a problem. 757 coming to a sudden stop is a much greater problem.
At least you brought your humor tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim.
Are there seatbelts on school buses and other city buses?
We do have seatbelts on our city buses. Yes, all of our seats are
like
equipped with
Minneapolis,
buses.
for example, St. Cloud.
Yes,
I think they do.
Yep. I can't speak to school buses. I think they might be exempt, but transit buses are not.
Okay.
Any other questions? So staff is recommending, let me
We'd be recommending the policy amendment to eliminate the free trips for children.
eliminating the free trips.
Yes.
And allowing,
Nothing,
what's that?
no free rides.
Right,
Yep,
no free rides. But what about the seatbelts?
No, they have to have a child safety restraint. They want us to strike if so desired also from the child seats, so that child seats are required if you're riding with a child.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that a motion?
I move.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of seatbelts and no more free rides, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item Transit System 1B, bid specification on the transit service. Mr. Halseth, anything you want to add to
Yeah, just that we put this out on Wednesday. Wednesday, we were still hoping that we could get some of the DBE requirements for MnDOT so that we could actually start advertising on Friday. We did not get those until Friday, so a few changes to the specifications that you're seeing. We do have to delay the advertisement 1 week, and we're going to push all the dates back 1 additional week. So instead of this coming to the council at their second meeting in May, we will have the bids coming back to the council their first meeting in June, which I think is June 1st.
But you still want us to approve the specs?
Yeah, we still request that council approve the specs.
Okay. Any discussions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the bid specs as presented?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is the request from the Beyond Credit Union regarding the alley. Anything you want to add, Mr. Halseth?
Nope. I think everything is fairly well explained on the agenda, rather on the cover sheets.
Do you think the cost will go down if you bid it
Yes,
out?
I think it will. We're going to have to be involved. We would want to solicit the quotes ourselves and detail out the materials being used and actually establishing the grade of the alley. So with that, I think we will get that cost down a bit. As far as our typical assessment policy, typically we do on a reconstruct of that nature, we typically do assess 1/2.
Any further questions?
The funding from the, is that a problem?
I don't know. The construction fund should have that, shouldn't it?
We should be able to be okay on that. It's a minor amount.
Okay, so you're looking for a motion to approve reconstruction with one half being assessed and one half coming from the construction.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Borkenhagen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that carries. Item 3 is 624F, Street Sewer Service. It's a request from the property owner requesting help in upgrading her sewer service. Mr. Alseth, anything you want to add?
Yeah, the letter that the individual submitted probably could use a little bit of explanation. The property at 624 F Street has a sewer connected to the neighbor sewer, and there's a problem with that, so they have to separate out and make their own connection to the public system. That is going to require a small internal lift station or pumping station, but they cannot do it gravity. They weren't aware of that back when they made a settlement with, when they bought the place and made a settlement with the seller. They received some, funding to do a sewer connection, but they didn't realize that the lift was going to be required. So she has it partially funded, but doesn't have funds to complete that work. That's where she's requesting that the city assist with being a funding source to, so that they can get the lift and that connection made. The one correction to this, we did hear from the applicant earlier today, and she is requesting that instead of assessing that over a 10-year period of time, that it be assessed over a 5-year period of time. She'd like to pay it off quicker.
Mr. Chip?
So when she's saying sump pump, she's meaning,
A lift
lift, okay.
station, yeah.
well, I like the idea of 5 years better than 10.
Sure.
And I'm assuming this is with interest?
Yes, it would be with interest, the same interest rate as what we have on our other special assessments.
So I would move to accept that.
Sure, we got a motion by Borkenhagen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Sue. I have one question, and that's, we're not responsible for, we're not actually doing the work.
No.
We're just upgrading. So my only concern is 3 years down the road, or 3 years into the repayment process, something goes wrong with the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is hiring her own contractor.
Yeah.
And we're just helping her finance it. So that's going to remain, workmanship and everything will remain an issue between her and her contractor.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So that's 5 years with interest. Okay, item number 4 is the AutoCAD training. We've got a memo here from engineer, from Jesse Freihammer, Assistant Engineer Freihammer. Anything you want to add, Mr. Halstead?
No, Jesse's much more up to date on the AutoCAD software than I am, but I know that our technicians have struggled, especially with setting up some of the basic formats and some of the customization for what we do, and this is something that would really help advance where we're currently at with our customization and provide our engineering technicians with the training and background so that they could be a lot more efficient with the software.
So you're looking for 3,300?
Actually, it's 3,000. The item for 300 we would not we would not be taking. So it would just be the 3,000.
And is this a budgeted item?
It's no, it's not really in the budget, but we would fund it through the construction fund.
Okay, any further discussion?
It says work to be done within 2 weeks' time, and that fits in with these guys' schedule? for-
Yes, yep. We've got, right now, we're out for bids. on our 28th Street project. That won't be coming back until June, so we do have some time here in May to catch up on things. Try to do that training.
And why aren't we getting the 3D tools? That sounds kind of fun to me, actually.
It's a license for 10 installations. We've only got, we only
I
have 2
see.
computers
Okay.
that have that license.
Got it. All right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the request for $3,000 to the construction fund for the training and software customization of the AutoCAD Civil 3D?
So moved.
Motion by Borgenhagen. Is there a second? Second by Hilgard. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Highway Business 371, layout recommendation. I don't know if Mr. Sheeler's going to let people talk. Anybody want to add anything to the discussions we've had? You can. We got plenty of time, Mr. Mink. Anybody who wants to can. This is kind of what these committees are
Some
for.
people that have more knowledge than I do, but I expressed a thought that we know we probably aren't going to get 5 lanes all the way. So how about taking 3 lanes down to Quince, transitioning at Quince to Oak to 5 lanes? Because the 5 lanes basically through the downtown area currently. There'd be very little acquisition of property needed during that area. Very few side streets coming in between Oak and Quince, because there's nothing on the east side. I think only 1 or 2 on the west side. Pine Street to the west is a one-way street going inwards, not towards the street, towards Fifth. Doing a transition there, keeping the 5 lanes through the downtown section here. The reason transitioning there, like I say, you got 2 stoplights. You could do the transition very similar to farther up south. And then coming through down here, you would have people, if you did the signage right, you could indicate through traffic to the west on 210 to go into the center lane or left lane. Turning into downtown, stay in the right lane if you're going into the east side. So you'd relieve some of the traffic stresses right there, especially with bigger trucks and stuff having to make turns, especially because it looked like the original plans came down to about Laurel Street and then went and transitioned into a 5-lane down here. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm looking at it and saying, if somebody were to come down 6th Street and somebody in the first tier parking here, diagonal, were to back out, suddenly traffic stops, and you might have backup trying to make either a right-hand turn or go through. Impatient people seeing an open lane in the center turn lane will probably go around, making an illegal lane change at that point. So if you could transition it earlier, what it looks like would help the downtown. It would tame the traffic to a certain extent. It would allow traffic to exit and come into the downtown, similar to what's being done now. And we aren't going to be looking at a lot of transition. The other thing is going south from Oak Street. Oak Street has a bicycle path going east and west already. Trail systems there. By having it go there, you could pick up your trails coming down from South 6th Street and work it in past the Y and connect with trails there without too much hassle with any residential area. So it's just a thought as a compromise. It's not going to get everybody what they want, either side, but it would be a compromise without changing a whole lot. I did ask, and I don't know if it's possible, can we, at this time, this spring, summer, peel up some striping that's up there and do the transition with paint now to get people used to what's happening. And if there is a design flaw, we'll know before we start construction. It's just a compromise. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to figure out how to make everybody somewhat happy, not everybody totally happy. Any questions on that idea?
So the question is more for MnDOT about the.
Well, hang on. Okay, well, hang on to see if we can get him up here at the end. You know what? I asked that whole striping thing because Chuck Marone had put out in one of his memos a deal about putting hay bales and stuff.
No, that's...
Well, I called the engineer about that because it actually kind of seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, man, we could try that. And he explained to me the cost and the liability with doing that would be astronomical.
Oh.
It would be impractical as well as astronomical to be able to do that, and the potential liability problem of couldn't we try? Well, certainly we could,
I think the liability
might be a
is
problem.
with barriers. With striping, I don't think there's quite as much
Well-
liability.
Oh, yeah, I got to have you
It's
hang
just
on.
fine.
You'll get it your chance. Promise.
I'm just using a common sense approach, and maybe common sense doesn't have a place here.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make.
I wish it would.
I'm trying to make certain that downtown gets serviced. I'm trying to make certain
Yep.
that the residential gets serviced, and the people that use the road for heavy hauling, as well as vehicle traffic and bicycle traffic, gets somewhat.
Sure.
So if you got any more questions, I'll answer them. I don't.
Any
I'm
more
just-
questions of Ed about his ideas?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, now you get a chance if you'd like to. You can tell us what you think. Sure, come on up to the microphone. Give us your name, Todd, and address.
Todd Thompson, I own W.W. Thompson Concrete Products, 702 Industrial Park Road, Brainerd. I did send a letter to the council, and my opinions haven't changed. I feel this is a really important issue for the city of Brainerd, for not now, in the future. I think if we put a downsize South 6th Street anyway and lose the state highway status of this road, we're sealing Brainerd growth for a long, long time. So I'm really adamant that we try to keep 5-lane and get the state of Minnesota to buy as much right-of-way as we can to preserve this corridor. I think that's really our only option. From the business world, if you try to stay the same or go backwards, you're going to die. And I think it's the same for the city of Brainerd. If we downsize this or in any way, we're going to be going backwards, and we're sealing the population of Brainerd at 12,000 for the next how many years? I've been a pro-Brainerd supporter, pay a lot of taxes in the city of Brainerd, and I think anything less than 5 lanes for this road or downside is a disservice to the city of Brainerd. That's my feeling.
Could I?
Yeah, Kate, would you take a question, Todd?
Certainly.
All right, Chip?
Just a couple thoughts and some feedback. First of all, when you talk about business, I think that we have to be careful that we don't scoop up all business and put it in the same box, because there are a lot of businesses that thrive better not being on a highway. One of the things that I noticed is that really, in a way, particularly, the thing Ed had mentioned his idea to me a few days ago,
You have
and I
a
thought
question
about
for
it.
Todd.
I know, this is a question for Todd.
Okay.
That, and then as I have driven it, in a way, that's kind of what we have now. And so we're not really changing all that much. And so I don't see it as downsizing. I personally see it as just being different. And I'm wondering how you, if you have experienced negative aspects of your business on the highway the way it is now, is one question.
Well, definitely, Chip. I mean, that's our business since the bypass has completely changed.
Right. But, I mean, as far as you getting your trucks to Baxter, for example, have you been, obviously, College Drive didn't probably help in some ways.
That changed things, the scenario a bit, because we used to use, a lot of our trucks use College Drive.
Right.
We do not use College Drive now, only maybe in real off times of the day.
So you use Sixth Street now, and are you finding problems with Sixth Street now, the way it is?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really, other than there's some safety issues, you know, with the kids walking across at, not at the signalized center.
Exactly.
On, what is it,
Street.
Pine Street? Yeah, the Pine Street crossing is scary. You know, that's the last thing I want is one of my trucks involved in a running over kid, you know. So, yeah, there's some safety issues there, definitely.
Okay, then the other question that I have is, and I don't know how long the population of Brainerd has been, 12,000, give or take, but for a really long time.
100 years?
Yeah, as long as I can remember. So, I don't see making the highway wider, getting people through town a minute or two faster is going to help increase the population of Brainerd.
I think this is a problem that I don't think we're trying to get them through faster. I think the bigger corridor handles traffic easier. And what the 3-lane is going to do is choke it down more, and it's going to increase than from what we have right now, Chip. That's my big issue right now, is you're going to create a problem with a stack up at some of these where you're going to 3 lanes here. Right now, if you go down here and stand most of the day, you'll see when the light's red, you have both lanes backed up at least 5 or 6 cars. Well, then that's going to put 12 cars in one lane, unless you have protected right turn lanes or whatever on there, which I would hope if it does go 3-lane that there's something like that. So you keep that lane, at least the one lane, flowing. But I just feel that if we don't get as much out of MnDOT as we can here and keep this as a Minnesota highway, even though it's Business 371, we're making a big mistake.
Is the essence of where you're having a problem with things is the downtown area, let's say from Oak Street on?
Not so much, Chip. I think if we want to see business come and stuff in this town, I would love to see 4 lanes all the way out to the 371. I mean, I think that's important. We've got one of the finest industrial parks in the area that has true industry. My business, which is a heavy industry, production, crowing, recycling. There's a lot of heavy businesses there that aren't, you know, we'd have a heck of a time getting, crowing recycling would have a hard time going anywhere else in the county to get industrial zoning like we have in the Brainerd Industrial Park. So I think, you know, and we can't stifle that. What are you going to do if this road is downsized? You're stifling that. You're going to stop the growth down there. I'm not kidding. That's going to shut things off. So I'm really concerned about that.
Well, we have 3 lanes coming in now to what?
Joseph, Willow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Willow, what have you. So the suggestion of us basically making the transition starting somewhere in that neck of the woods to 4 lanes through downtown, that works for you?
Yes. I would love to see it, like I said, 4 lanes all the way out, but I know that isn't probably in the cards right now, but I think that's something that if we're downsizing this now, we're never going to get that, even though we have some real big possibilities for our industrial park. Right now, we've got trucks coming in, but there's no way for a truck in the industrial park right now to really get through Brainerd real quick, if you're other than what we have. You know, to come for me to go towards Nisswa, Pine River, it's the most practical for us to come down 6th, 210 west. I mean, that's the way it is. Certain times, my drivers, it's quicker for them to go all the way down and come back. That's the truth. And the biggest culprit of that isn't Brainerd. It's a 210, 371 intersection over there. That's where the mess is. The light's out there. It's not city of Brainerd. You can flow through Brainerd pretty quick. They bypassed Brainerd and they got all the problems out there now.
Yep. So if basically, big picture wise, if things were kept relatively the same as they are now, you're okay?
I think that's the only answer. Try to keep 5 lanes where we have 5 lanes now. Yeah, I know it's probably going to acquire some right of way because of the ADA requirements, but I think that's what we do. I think if we shrink this down to 3 lanes, I think that's going to be sending a wrong signal to anybody that's coming to this town.
But my point is that it's 3 lanes now from the old Holiday Inn all the way almost into town here. So by putting in ADA compliant sidewalks, not having to encroach too much on, people going through their front yard, and having the transition just a little closer down here, it's not changing that much.
Well, I think it changes if you go into 3 lanes all the way down here, Chip, is what I'm saying.
Right, no, 4 lanes.
Yeah, you can't.
There's no.
Chip, did you get your questions answered? Because I absolutely positive Mr. Thompson would love to talk to you about this more. But I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk.
Right.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Thompson before we let him go? All right. Anything else you wanted to add, Todd?
No, I think I've said
Anybody else who wants to come on up, Mr. Turner, come on up, give us your name and address, and tell us what you think on South 6th Street.
Just South 6th?
For now.
Okay. I'm Bob Turner. I live at 914 9th Avenue Northeast. I own the Front Street Cafe. I've been there for 17 years. Recently here with the College Drive expansion, making it to a 4-lane, it doesn't make sense to shrink 6th in any way. In order for our community to grow, as he says, we would be wonderful 4 lanes all the way down to the freeway. Would definitely increase our traffic inflow here to town. And even with the 4-lane on College Drive, I live all the way over to Northeast, and when I'm going to Walmart or any store in that area, Home Depot, Costco, I come down 12th, come down Oak Street, cut across, and go that way. And the biggest thing that I didn't understand about this downsizing is basically what he was saying. We don't want to downsize now. They've been telling us for decades that this community is going to grow. And if we're going to keep up with what's going on with Baxter in the outlying area, we'd like to see it wider, not narrow.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment on? Come on.
They said it all.
All right. Okay. Again, I don't know how things are going to go at the council if you guys are going to dance. So, anything you want to add? You?
Unless you have any questions.
You had a question. I think Chip did have. Did you have? And we've got a couple questions.
I'm Jim Holgren with MnDOT.
Thank you, Jim. Sue, go ahead.
So the question that I had as a follow-up to the proposal that Mr. Mink made by transitioning to 5 lanes midway, it's like a compromise.
Okay.
Really, it is. More so than 3 lanes with protected right turn lanes, which would be another option to keep traffic moving. What is the impact of the ADA needs for wider sidewalks and the property owners that are most at risk of losing a significant amount of their property and their property value by having the street outside their door? If we went to the 3 lanes to Quince and then broadened to 5 transition between Quince and Oak, that does significantly reduce the property that's at peril in the right-of-way acquisition, or not?
It would greatly reduce the impacts. Everything south of Quince or Oak or wherever that line is drawn. The advantage to that is I'm really unclear on the advantages to going 5 lanes at that point. We've looked at the capacity versus what the existing volumes are out there today, and we're just not seeing the volumes that warrant a 5-lane as they are through this stretch. So I'm really unclear on what the advantages are of widening out to 5-lane at Oak or Quince. I do see probably, if there's an argument to be made, it would be that widened stretch would act as a right turn lane more than anything else from Quince up to Washington. That would act as basically almost as a continuous right turn, if nothing else. That's just the way I'm seeing it. We would have to, with that alternative, we would have to squeeze our lane widths in. We'd have to bring them in tighter than what they are today to make room to get the ADA, to make it ADA compliant. We would have to do other things in addition to that. Play with the curb height, sidewalk widths we'd probably want to get into a minimum situation. The entrances, the alleyways, those are going to be challenging for us to make compliant in those areas. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that idea.
You know what? You can. Gary, go ahead.
My question is, and this is my biggest fear, but it's a question is, who pays 10 years from now when you find out that, this was a mistake and we got to now increase it? Because the idea of whatever happened, the town grew, people loved Brainerd. We had a new council that wasn't, it brought a lot of business in. And then you go, you know what, who pays after that? You're going to look at us and say, it's your nickel from there on, because you guys proposed it to be 3-lane, and now if you want it 5, the city of Brainerd has to pay all the costs now to expand it after that, where we wouldn't have that expense.
I'm not sure if that's realistic. 10 years, you would have to see astronomical growth to meet 20,000 vehicles per day, where we would start. Is it 30 years? Is it 50 years? I'm thinking it's probably more 30 to 50 year out.
Okay,
would
just
be
give me an answer on the
at
question.
that point. Then the pavement is in need of replacement once again, and then who knows what would happen then? Our vehicles may become super narrow. We might be driving different types of vehicles. I don't know.
Chip, you have one?
I have one. Are the sidewalks from Oak Street going north ADA compliant now?
No. We've taken the project in 2009. We focused in on the pedestrian ramps to try to bring those up to compliance. It was a good step forward, but those are still not compliant. The sidewalks at each of the driveways, they do tip steeper than what's allowed by ADA requirements. So all of those would have to be compliant after the project.
What about
project
the
is
width of the sidewalk?
The width, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the width out there now is in that 5 foot,
Typically 6.
5.
I think 6.
5 to 6
Yep.
foot width.
I guess what I'm saying is when you're coming through town, there's not a whole lot of room to work with anyway. The buildings come right up to them.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to have to restrict a little bit just to be ADA compliant anyway, no matter what we do, no matter how many lanes we have.
Correct. We would, yes. We'll have to work that through as we get into those details.
Do you have another question? Okay. The only one that I had, and you kind of answered it, is in essence, if we said, well, we want a 3-lane, we want it, for all the arguments that you've heard, but we want the third lane, the center turn lane, and right turn lanes. In essence, a 5-lane is a continuous. I've seen those, a continuous right turn lane. If you reduce that, but include right turn lanes, especially downtown in the high traffic, high right turning areas of the core downtown, I'm not seeing too much difference between the two options from Oak to Washington at least, because you are going to have continuous turn lanes. The practicality says Mr. Thompson's trucks are driving in the left lane up until the light. They choose one of the two left turn lanes, or they get in the right turn lane if they're, and away they go. But not too often are they turning right onto Laurel. I don't mean to put words in, but I'm guessing that they're moving through. And that's the argument, is that we need to have that ability to separate the turners, the people who are using our downtown, Mr. Menk's store, and the people who are going through. And the way the reason for the extra lanes, you asked, why would you potentially, as Mr. Menk said, shorten it up, is to give those, is to move those people out of the turn lanes and prevent this, or out of the through lane, and prevent the stacking that would double the stack at the lights. In essence, taking the 2 lanes of 5 and putting it into a cannon. So to allow those people to go. So I'm somewhat, in a way, what is the difference? Probably not from Washington. Am I reading that correctly?
I think
'Cause aren't you gonna put a turn lane?
there may be entrances that
Yes.
would be, by introducing a shorter right turn lane,
Yep.
we could get away from those entrances that are coming mid-block, which would allow us to develop the ADA compliant crossing of those. That would be about the only argument. But then, are we at that detail where I don't know that we're at that detail where we can, definitively answer that.
Thank you. No further questions? Good. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
So, we've talked about it, and we've talked about it, we've talked about it. It's on our agenda to make a recommendation to the council. So anyone want to take a stab at it? Either of you? It's going to go argumentative with the 7. Okay, but at least we could start the ball rolling.
I'm not exactly sure how to word this, but ever since Mr. Mink brought his idea to me the other day, I've been thinking about it, and it makes sense. It's a compromise. We have, my perspective is one of physical beauty. You come into a town, does it look not, is it rushing traffic through faster or allowing for bigger trucks, but is it a nice entrance to the city? And if we can accomplish that for Mr. Mink's idea, and then transition to basically what it is now. In other words, not change it all. Would be to keep it 3-lane as it is now, coming into town to somewhere just before Oak Street, and then turn it into the 4 or 5-lane. Is that doable? I mean, is that?
I think that's a decent motion.
Okay.
What do you think?
A 3-lane to Quince, transition to 5 lanes between Quince and
Any further discussion? I have one question of the engineer. I'll ask it of our engineers. And it's only because, and I apologize, I missed the last. But one of the things that we've talked about is and this motion, I think, might solve that issue. But we did talk about like a 2-lane coming in, 1 lane going out, center turn lane. Was there anything you wanted to add about that? Just because people will ask, because there's been conversation about it. Was it a viable option? I mean, we even got one suggestion where some cities change 2 lanes coming in the morning and then switch it to 2 lanes heading south in the afternoon.
In terms of it being viable, and I don't want to put words in Jim's mouth.
I meant to ask Jim, and I forgot before.
Yeah, I think it was more, the question of, the traffic volumes are pretty much equal. We've got the same volume of traffic coming north as we have going south.
Okay.
Rush hour in the morning, when I try to get onto South 6th Street, I've got as many vehicles going south as there are going north. So, I think we kind of look at it and, is there, why would we add more capacity going one direction than the other? I guess it would be my question.
Okay. I just wanted to hear the argument, because I wasn't here. Any further discussions? Hearing none, that recommendation to the council will be to continue basically from roughly Oak, and obviously PennDOT what say it's all this done. But the Mank proposal. I like to call it the Mank proposal. Give that a little. Basically keeping it the same between Washington and roughly Oak, and tapering into a 3-lane from the side. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, the second part of that is the lane width, and I don't think now, at least between Oak and Washington, we can do anything with the lane width. Please come up to the microphone. And I'm sorry, but yes.
Regarding the lane width, I think that it needs to be in more of MnDOT's domain to be able to have the flexibility to fit within the environment where we can. My preference is to keep it wide to give the trucks the adequate room. But in areas where we're really confined in the downtown core, where we're building face to building face, I'm going to need to have the flexibility to play with the lane widths to get everything to work. So if I could ask that flexibility remain within MnDOT's domain.
Okay. Is there, Jeff, I'm sorry, Jim, please stay up there. Do we need a motion as such to allow?
I don't think so. I think from here, MnDOT will start working on layouts, and I think when they come back at some point with a layout for municipal consent, they can get into the discussion in a little bit more detail on how they arrived at lane widths.
Okay. I presume, if I may ask, though, because I don't want this to be a presumption and be wrong. Now, presuming this evening you come out of here with some sort of idea what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure that this idea is going to fly because there's 4 other people. But the next step is you're going to put a little bit more detail to this and come back and say, here's what we think it would look like, or we will get a final yes or no.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is a step in the process that I need. I need some direction so I can fully develop a layout. Sure. And then once that layout's fully developed and approved by MnDOT staff, then I will present it back to the City Council, asking you for your municipal consent, municipal approval, if you will, on that layout.
Okay.
And there'll be additional information that comes with that, so you can have an informed decision before you move forward into detailed design.
Will that also include any cost estimates?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. I have one last question while you're standing here. The Willow Street traffic control is not item C on this, but I would have made it item C on this. And I'd like to make it item C. Apologize to our engineer. but it appears, at least from what I've heard and from what citizens have said, they really would like something. This council encourages MnDOT and others.
I think we did
Okay, you did, that's all done. Okay, good.
There's a resolution that was sent.
Okay, all right. You understand. It's contrary to what you initially talked about, but sometimes that happens.
We all know how.
That's
Yeah,
exactly, I
absolutely.
wanted to make sure it gets on paper that you understand that a lot of citizens feel that that's an important part of it.
Jeff, real quick, you sent that letter off?
No, we've got the resolution, it's all signed. We haven't sent it out yet. I've been working on a cover letter.
You work
And-
with Mr. Bevins, at least keep him a loop?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, have we voted? All in favor of Chip's motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, I think we voted, but now we did. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6, organized garbage collection. And you have sent, what are we going to do here, Jeff?
Well, we sent letters to,
Yep.
I don't know how we did it, but as I said in my cover memo, we sent letters to, I guess, 4 license collectors, and we really spaced out Waste Partners, but I did talk to Eric. He called me last week and informed me that he did not get a letter, so we emailed one to him, but that was certainly an oversight on our part. This follows up with the discussion that we had earlier when the committee talked about potential for organized collection, and with that, the committee wanted to set some time, about a half hour, to maybe talk with the license collectors to try to maybe get their perspective on organized collection, perhaps discuss some pros and cons. Obviously, from staff's perspective, it just goes without saying that we're going to have less road damage, the less number of the fewer vehicle miles of travel we've got on our local residential streets, particularly with garbage collection vehicles. So with that, there is a cost associated with the street maintenance and the cost of street reconstruction. But things have changed a little bit in terms of state statutes in recent years as far as facilitating organized collection. So, I think the thought was this evening to just kind of open it up for some discussion with the license collectors. And this isn't really starting a formal process, but if after some discussion, if there's an interest in exploring organized collection further, then there will be some processes that we'll have to follow to start down that road.
Excellent. Before I see if anybody in the audience wants to speak on this, I have a question. Would one solution be, because we've never gotten past this point since I've been on the council, we've always ixnated at this point, in part to let free enterprise reign. But my question would be is, if we decided we wanted to move forward, I have it in my mind that it would be that we would potentially geographically subdivide the city. Is that how you would see it happening if we would, or would it be a bid process to eliminate all but one collector in the city of Brainerd?
No, I don't believe so. The way the statute is set up right now, if the city intends to organize, we would make official notice to the public and to the license collectors of our intent to explore organized collection. That's going to start the clock on a 60-day period of time when the license collectors can get together. And what they've done in many communities is they get together and they create their own organization of collectors, and between themselves kind of divide up the city somewhat proportionally to the number of accounts that they currently have. And that's kind of what the statute provides for, that if they've got one collector has 30% and one's got 20%, another one's got 18%, whatever it is, they try to kind of district off the city proportional to their existing number of accounts and divide it between themselves. Then we just basically negotiate, negotiate how they would do that. Certainly, the city, we would have to set some criteria or some parameters for the collection. Certain items that we would want to make sure that they abide by. When they organize, but given what the city's requirements or our desires would be for organized collection, they would take that and potentially come back with a proposal. If they didn't come back with a proposal, then at that point the city could take a look at doing something of that nature where we could district off the city and go out for competitive bidding. But we aren't really obligated to do that. I think most cities have been successful in having the organized or having the licensed collectors create their own little organization.
Okay. Any further questions? Mr. Sheeler?
My question is you're thinking of grids, like 4 grids in the city, or like taking the wards that we've got. The wards are equally divided by population anyway, but that's what you're talking about? Like dividing into 4 grids and then they would bid on those 4 grids?
Potentially.
Okay, I just was trying to figure out what you...
Potentially. And that's something where if we got to that step, we would have to think through that process.
Okay.
And decide size of districts and number of districts.
Perfect. Okay, I want to give our, if anybody's here, a chance to come up and give your 2 minutes worth on this subject. Anybody's here from the public or from, please come forward. Just state your name. If you're representing one of the collection companies, please let us know. And your address. And what you think of what we're asking.
I think 2 minutes isn't even close to what I need.
I know.
Eric Logie with Waste Partners. I've been doing this for 34 years now, since 1981, with my father. Started a business here in Brainerd called Poor Gary's Disposal. Worked for Waste Management. I'm not sure if they're represented here or not, but for about 7 years, went to work for a company in the cities for a year, and then now I'm back here doing my own business. This is the 6th time I've dealt with organized collection in this community. 3 times specifically with Brainerd, a couple with County, and 1 with Baxter. Understandably, in all 6 of those, I have yet to hear the reasons why, other than I just heard a state statute and we're driving too many miles on the streets. That doesn't seem like a reason to change a very competitive system now. I know in some cases where organized collection is used, it's done because there isn't another hauler competing. We have a pretty good competitive group right now. I think our rates, I actually went through the 2005 organized collection notes I had. We are 50 cents higher on a 65-gallon service than we were at that time. That's very competitive. So I'm curious more about the reasons for it. I come up here and try to, I hear you talking about quadrants. Quadrants will eventually have to be bid. How else would you control pricing? I mean, because if I get carte blanche to charge whatever I want in that quadrant, that doesn't make sense. So the long term of this is bidding it out. The long term of this is me potentially losing 2,000 customers. The potential of that, of course, I've taken mortgages on my home. I created recycling facilities because they don't exist in Crow Wing County. I've spent my entire life in this industry trying to create a potential retirement for myself. And when the city comes and talks about this stuff, it's near and dear to my heart. It's potentially putting me out of business because of the capital expense I put in place already, taken loans for, and now can't plan for the future, not knowing what my future is. So I think it's only fair to tell us what's going to happen. I've never seen an organized collection contract in any of these 6 things talk about how it would be done. And they said, well, if we get there, then we'll talk about it. But no, if we want to go forward, and he's saying we get 60 days, within that 60 days, we have to figure it out during the start of summer, the busiest time of the year for us, to figure out how we're going to manipulate and work this. I think there's a lot more to it than what I'm hearing. So, thank you.
Can you stay there for 1
Yep.
second there? Any questions? Because I have. I can only answer for myself your question of why. And that's it. Those big trucks pound the tar out of it. And there's 4 times as many of them as there needs to be, theoretically. And there could be an unlimited amount, but that's an awful lot. And we get a lot of complaints about, you know, your guys are up and down my street on this day, and the next guy's on the next day, and the next day. And pretty soon it's a nonstop revolving garbage trucks. And so the thought process is to try and limit the amount of heavy truck traffic on streets that were never designed to handle as much as they're getting. And that's not just your business, but yours is one that we're addressing this evening. And the other is the expense. And one of the things of maintaining those streets, correct?
Correct. Yep.
The additional expense of having 5 times as many or 6 times as many or however many there are. One thing that just popped into my head, and you just came up to the microphone first, so I'm going to ask you this. What if we limited your business to a day and the next guy to a day? This just popped into my head while listening to you. And what if we charged you a license fee, a street maintenance fee over and above, similar to what Mr. Thompson's trucks pay the state of Minnesota because they have to have it. And you probably do too. Every heavy truck I've had always pays more licensing fee to help maintain the things. I mean, that's just something that just popped into my head as maybe a solution is we need to, and I don't know if we can have we probably do have a city licensing fee. But maybe it's not enough to cover the street maintenance that is required to cover all the trucks. I just thought those 2 things popped into my head as the 2 biggest complaints are, one from the street department that you guys are pounding on our street, particularly our alleys. And then the other thing is the people that complain about all of the truck traffic. It's usually at 5 in the morning. So often, because you're trying to get off the streets. Thank you. What do you think of something like that?
Well, a couple things. One, the truck traffic is warranted. The weight, if you consider, take Northeast Brainerd, it has a certain amount of garbage that goes out of there every week, correct? The number of trucks traveling on it, let's say that there's more than there needs to be, will actually be hauling later loads than the truck that picks all of it up at one time. And your heavy use studies all say this. Your heavy use studies say that most of the damage occurs when they're completely full. The largest trucks will be used with the end filled completely up before they'll go to the dump with that kind of a scenario. And so there's a lot of things that, and I've been doing this forever. It's easy for me, and I actually think a better scenario than starting a 60-day process is to get together a group that talks about this a little more regularly, and we can put all our I had solutions to this in 2005. You could have limited the number of contracts or the licenses you allow at that time. Now you've added 1 or 2 more companies that have started, doing business in town. You can limit those licenses where you aren't putting them out, just like you do liquor. You can change statutory requirements for time and things of that nature as far as that kind of thing is concerned. But yeah, your use on the streets is no different than you say that you want it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, try to pick one of them. Well, there's many people that choose a garbage company because of the day they get picked up. They leave, Monday for the week for sales. They leave weekends to the cabin. Whatever the reasons, a lot of people choose it because of the day of service. But I understand the city and the complaints that come across, and I think that we can come up with the group. There's a lot of really good resources in this room. People who've been doing it forever that can provide other alternatives to some of the questions you have, but those were just 2. Your wear and tear in your streets, I believe, will increase with organized collection because it will be used at the largest vehicles, and they will fill completely up before they go to the dump. Right now, we kind of spread that throughout the city. And I can show you that in some of the way that people pick it up. But I'd love to talk about it. I'm open to it. Every once in a while I get this. I got this last Tuesday, or this Tuesday, last Tuesday. And I'm like, okay, one more time I have to go up and defend my right to be in business.
Sure. Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else in the audience wish to come on up?
I'm Gary Logie. I started here in 1980, and you're complaining about the truck traffic, but a lot of it was caused by you folks, and by that I mean the government. In 80, when I started, we went down the street, we threw everything you put out there in the truck, and we went to the dump, and we dumped it. Now, we're going through, we're picking up the garbage, then we're getting the recycling, then the glass and the leaves, then into furniture, white good, mattresses, and we have to put them all in separate piles at the landfill, so we could conceivably be in your alley with 4 or 5 different trucks from the rules that you've made. And then on the recycling, you don't give us a place to dump it here. We have to haul it 3 miles north of Pine River to dump it. We're going up and down the roads to get rid of it. So you're causing some of that traffic, too.
Excellent. Thank you.
You betcha.
That's what we need to hear. Anybody else? Come on up.
My other thing would be,
Yep.
if you're going to start with us, you're going to do with UPS, FedEx, Speedy. Where do you stop this?
Okay. Come on up.
Hi, I'm DJ. I'm from Blue Lakes Disposal. I've also done this all my life. Me and my sister are just starting to take this over, and that's not the way I want to start, and is taking my accounts away from me. But the trucks are smaller than what they used to be. As Eric, we used to run big rear loaders, twin screws, axles. Most of them are single axle now, right, Eric? And we can adjust the start time. We start at 7. If you wanted to leave it at that, or that's the problem. Also the recycling. Where to take the recycling, we have to take it to Pine River and pay for it. They should provide a spot to take it. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to talk about organized garbage collection? Come on up. Give me your name and company and address.
My name is David MacArthur. I'm with Nisswa Sanitation. I would just like to echo the comments that the gentleman ahead of me shared. I think there is a wealth of knowledge in this room concerning this business that you need to address and gather from. And the last person's comments about the trucks being smaller is very relevant to what's going on in our industry. We're going down the streets and alleys, and quadrants aren't the same. Some quadrants have streets, some have alleys, so it's not apples to apples. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Anybody else that wish to talk about organized garbage collection? Going once. Organized garbage collection? Okay, we are going to close that. What do you want to do from here?
I don't
Chip?
think that we were looking for
No.
a motion particularly.
Not necessarily.
And I think exactly what these guys are asking for is simply an opportunity to all get together, sit down, and talk it through, is what tonight was all about, just to get that ball rolling.
Okay. You want to... My question is, do you want to let them know that we're done? Or do you want to let them know that we're still going to think about it and maybe get together one more time? Or do you want to definitively set up, they're all here, or do you want to definitively set up another meeting right now? Any of those three? I'm just,
Yeah.
or maybe you're not ready to make that decision.
Any of those three. I just find that if it's a really bad idea, why does it keep coming up? And why are 30 to 50% of our cities organized garbage? There's reasons for and against, and I think tonight is the first night to sit down and let's get some discussion going and figure out what's going to be best for this city. That didn't answer your question, did it?
Not really. We can let it go 2 weeks.
Let's let it go 2 weeks. I think that
Sure.
what this is a solution to not what the problem that came before us was originally.
Mhm.
The solution, I said this solution that is being proposed isn't necessarily for the issue that came before us originally. And that
Correct.
was the property owners not liking garbage cans out all days of the week. And so a way to address that is if everybody in a neighborhood's trash is picked up on Monday, then you know who's the guilty one for not putting their garbage can away after the trash got picked up. And that this isn't necessarily a solution for that. And I don't know that another rule or another ordinance is a solution either to being a good citizen. I don't know what action we need to take from here.
Mr. Halseth, will you put us back on for 2 weeks from now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you all for coming and giving us your opinions. I don't know where we're going to go from here. And as Alderwoman Hilgard said, the initial issue was people were complaining that those little two-wheel dumpsters were sitting out on the curb or in the street for days, or if not longer.
There's more to it than just that.
There's more to it than that. That was some of the initial complaints. And organized garbage collection doesn't address that. So, as Sue said, so there's more issues with this. We're going to have no decision, and we'll give a little FYI to the council. Lastly, item 7, Engineer Halseth, you want to just give us the public a rundown as to what we're talking about here?
Yes, every year we employ some temporary summer labor done at the street department. The council approved that a few meetings ago, actually it's a couple months ago. In our memo, in our budget for 2015, we budgeted some additional funds with the intent of that wage rate being in the $10 to $12 an hour range. The memo that went to the council just said $10, so that's what was approved. Last year we paid $10.50 an hour. This year, one of our applicants has been here for 2 previous years. This will be his 3rd year. Already trained, very good worker, and we would like to set his wage at $11 per hour. So that would be our request and recommendation.
Any questions of the engineer?
No.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion